Good morning, I'm Wendy Burke and this is the CBC Morning Report. In our top story, as UNCTAD enters day 2, one of the major talking points on the agenda that came up yesterday was the inequitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. Global leaders are discussing new solutions to this disparity that could cost lives. CBC's Aaliyah Briggs reports.
As wealthy countries around the globe begin their vaccine booster campaign, there continues to be glaring vaccine inequalities that need to be addressed. Only around 2% of people in low-income countries have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. In the presence of UN Secretary General and UNCTAD Secretary General, Prime Minister Mia Mottley made a call for global solidarity on the matter. She suggests establishing vaccine manufacturing and bottling plants in regions with limited access will improve capacity to distribute doses to those most in need.
We can only ask that all of our actions move to a point of vaccine equity. And we can only ask that there also be an urgency about identifying locations such as ours and others in other parts of the world to become locations for the manufacturing and/or bottling of vaccines, so as to ensure a more ready capacity to distribute to those most in need.
According to Prime Minister Mottley, this issue must be treated with urgency if the UN is to meet its target of vaccinating 70% of each country's population by 2022.
I do not accept that it is possible for us to achieve that. I do not accept that it is possible for vaccine and manufacturing and bottling plants to be available throughout every region in this world to ensure the shortest to people's arms.
These comments come as workers and global health organizations have become increasingly vocal about the disparity in vaccine access between residents of wealthier and poorer nations. Aaliyah Briggs, CBC News.
Highlights will be the arrival of the President of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. He's scheduled to arrive in Barbados at 1:15 a.m. to a guard of honor. The Kenyan President will be met by Barbados' Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott. Next on CBC Morning Report, updates on the COVID-19 pandemic. The latest number of COVID-19 cases continues to be high. The Bristol Santos Public Health Lab identified 195 new cases from the 1,835 tests conducted on Sunday. The new positives comprise 44 people under the age of 18. There are now 996 people in isolation. Airline losses from the coronavirus pandemic are set to surpass $200 billion as travel curbs weigh on corporate and long-haul demand well into 2022. The International Air Transport Association said yesterday in Boston at its annual meeting that carriers are poised to post a collective deficit of $11.6 billion next year.
The International Air Transport Association's gathering had been suspended due to COVID restrictions. Delegates are expected to focus on how to make up for the economic losses the industry suffered during the pandemic. Let's bring in Gabriel Elizondo, who's live from Boston, where that meeting is being held. So how's the industry feeling about recovery prospects, Gabe?
Well, they're feeling that things are getting better, but it's slow. I mean, just to give you an idea about how much the industry has lost, IATA announced new numbers this morning here in Boston, saying that in 2021, this year, the global aviation industry is expected to lose about $51 billion. That is a lot of money, but it's better than last year, which was the worst year on record, where they lost $137 billion. So things are getting better slowly, but the losses continue to mount up. They forecast ahead to next year, 2022. They still expect to forecast $11 billion in losses in the air transport industry as well. So listen, the domestic air travel is picked up in North America and in parts of Europe, but there is still much of the world that they are concerned about, that just the amount of travel has not picked up enough to bolster the industry to stem these losses. It's still, they say, going to be several years really until they're able to reverse these multi-billion-dollar losses. But overall, many of the people here, the CEOs and other officials from the various airlines throughout the world that are here, say that things, they do sort of see a light at the end of the tunnel after what has been a very hard 2 years.
But there's also the issue of emissions, Gabe. The airline industry is, of course, one of the biggest contributors to emissions. What are they going to do about that?
Yeah, they've announced that the airline industry hopes to get carbon neutral by 2050. And that's the aspirational goal, if you will. But it's going to be hard, and we saw how it is going to be hard because already Chinese carriers are saying they don't necessarily want to abide by that. And so many analysts I spoke to say that unless there's any sort of enforcement by individual governments where the airlines are based out of, it's going to be hard to reach that goal. Nevertheless, though, the airlines do now see this very much as a crisis, one that they're contributing to because of the emissions that lead to climate change.
The man in charge of Britain's finances is warning that taxes may have to rise further to pay for the country's COVID recovery plan.
Rishi Sunak is the former investment bank analyst now running the UK's Treasury and widely regarded as a likely successor to the current Prime Minister Boris Johnson. When the UK went into COVID lockdown in 2020, Sunak's government-backed furlough scheme subsidised the salaries of more than 11 million workers at a cost of $95 billion. And now he says it's time to start balancing the books.
I have to be blunt with you. Our recovery comes with a cost. Our national debt is almost 100% of GDP. So we need to fix our public finances.
So this week, low-income families will stop receiving a temporary £20 or $27 a week uplift to a social benefit called Universal Credit. And taxes are going up too. It's going to be a very tough winter for some.
My great worry is that we're going to have lots more people pushed into the arms of loan sharks, forced to use food banks, and actually that's unnecessary. You know, the government could just continue with the £20 a week uplift into the winter, into the spring and summer next year, and that would just alleviate a huge amount of financial pressure on low-income families across the country, including here in Greater Manchester.
On Monday, the Army began helping to deliver fuel to petrol filling stations, a very visible sign of the UK's chronic shortage of truck drivers, and a situation which has caused petrol pumps to run dry and also seen empty shelves in supermarkets.
Many economists are warning that the United Kingdom faces a cost of living crisis in the coming months as energy prices go up and the government claws back some of the benefits it paid out during the pandemic. What's not clear is whether the Chancellor's proposed ways of mitigating that damage are enough in deprived areas such as Salford.
Proposals include a scheme called Kickstart to help young, low-income workers and incentives for companies to take on apprentices. In his Salford workshop, Mike Cleary says he's just about getting by.
We're ticking over, that's the main thing. We could do a lot better than what we are doing. But again, without proper training, without the money being pumped into apprenticeship schemes, then it's going to come to a standstill.
Next month, Rishi Sunak delivers a formal budget, which will detail the government's financial plans. But the indications are that for many in the UK, things are going to get worse before they might get better.
Time for a preview of what's coming up on Morning Barbados. And for that, we say good morning to Pearson Aloysius Boone.
Good morning, Wendy Agneta Burke. It is wonderful having you join me this morning. Thanks for the laugh, thanks for the chuckle. I'll deal with you again tomorrow morning, you better believe it. But coming up this morning, Wendy, good morning, folks, is we're going to look at the work of the Commonwealth Secretariat. We hope to be joined by Baroness the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, who is CARICOM Secretary General, to look at the work ongoing there in their quest for climate change, their adaptation, the whole question of youth as well. It's also Education Month, and under the theme Education Reimagined, exploring our frontiers for teaching, learning and national development, we'll look at what's on the calendar of activities for the month and share how they intend to interact with us as parents, caregivers and the like, and children too. And in our pediatric care, Dr. Julian Birchwood will join us because it's the season for the flu, gastroenteritis, hand, foot and mouth disease. And what can you as a parent do to help in the mitigation against any of those affecting your children? Just a little bit of what you can join me for at 6:30 right here on Morning Barbados. It's back to you, Agneta. Sorry, Wendy.
Well, we will see you at the bottom of the hour, Aloysius, while Pearson. We'll take another break and return with more news. While there have been reports of some students and teachers grappling with the online learning environment, one school has managed to make it work to their advantage. Syncytial's Boys School is given online learning the thumbs up as it enhanced overall grades performance as seen at the common entrance level. Deputy Principal of Syncytial's, Kevin Hurdle, says they were able to increase their average marks in both maths and English.
We have tried to come up with as comprehensive plan and approach as possible in terms of how we sought to deal with the challenges of going online. So this is by not only having trained and familiarize our staff with the platforms we use, and for example, we make use heavily of the Zoom platform and the Google Classroom or G Suite platform. And it has been, again, it has had its challenges, but nonetheless, we have approached it with the necessary alacrity, the desire to see that our students are still given a program that is comprehensive and the material is delivered in such a way as well that is engaging to them at times. Because, you know, that is something that I'm sure you may have heard people may say that provides somewhat of a challenge. Now, we live in a time whereby we can say this is generation alpha, as it may be termed in academic circles, and these students have a great degree of familiarity with all things digital. But at the same time, the platform itself has to be very engaging to continue to capture their attention.
Mr. Hurdle shared some best practice takeaways to keep children engaged while online.
For essay writing, you may have debate competitions, you may have in mathematics, you will use other modalities that can be incorporated with Zoom, such platforms called quizzes. You will have Nearpod, which allow you to deliver the material in a method that is not only helping you to attain the academic targets you wish to reach, but it gives the approach a more refreshing nature in terms of the students. So you will have something that will be more interactive, and that in itself was one of the things that we found would have more captured the students' attention and kept them focused. And again, I must say, even though the online program does have, or does appear to some extent to have a degree of standoffishness, so to speak, it does allow again for an innovative way to engage with your students and engage with the materials that you will have. So you may have presentations and you do programs in certain elements of English or mathematics. You incorporate platforms such as YouTube as well, and all of these things that sync with the lesson. So it keeps that drive there, it keeps that focus there. And I think all of these factors combined are things that would have allowed our boys to perform in the manner that they did.
The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on the labor movement in Barbados in more ways than one. In fact, the Barbados Workers Union says it lost between 2 to 4% of its membership due to the pandemic. However, General Secretary Tony Moore says there's been some leveling off in the numbers, with workers from other sectors seeking membership during the 2-year period.
Tourism was one of the areas hardest hit when COVID-19 slammed into Barbados. The sector ground to a halt, affecting the thousands of people working in it. Those workers make up a significant portion of the membership of the Barbados Workers Union. But General Secretary Tony Moore says there was no mass exit. She's attributed this to the BEST program, which saw workers keep their jobs at a reduced salary.
So with that as well, the fall off in the area of hotels has not been as significant. It has been bad, but it has not been as significant as could have been the case if such a program was not implemented.
The General Secretary says remote workers have also been showing an interest in becoming unionized, and that has helped to shore up numbers.
We've also seen in the area of retail and distribution an increase in numbers in the areas of finance. For instance, we've seen consolidation, and then there are a number of small groups, smaller divisions coming into the union that traditionally we have been trying to organize a number of these for some time. And we have at present a number of companies that are before the Labour Department just awaiting that resolution.
Ms. Moore says the increase in minimum wage also led to a bump up in membership, particularly among gas station workers and those in the security sector.
What we are seeing is that there's a certain demand from workers. It's almost like the impacted workers have recognized that the union is here working for them and is largely responsible for the progress that has been achieved up to now, and we are seeing slow movement, slow but desirable movement in a positive direction in a number of areas that the union has been targeting for some time.
Lisa Broom, CBC News.
Service appears to be restored for some Facebook services and Instagram users after a global outage that disabled the social media platforms that are owned by Facebook Inc. for nearly 6 hours. The Facebook-owned WhatsApp messaging app was still experiencing issues late yesterday.
WhatsApp is the world's most popular messaging app with more than 2 billion monthly users. Facebook owns both Instagram and WhatsApp. Internet users have been taking to other forms of social media to vent their frustration. And among them, it was Facebook's chief tech officer who tweeted for the outage. Mike Schroep first said the company is experiencing network issues and teams are working as fast as possible to debug and restore the service. Twitter, of course, is one of the few major social networks that's not owned by Facebook. So they've obviously had, well, I guess a mishap of one shape or another, but they were having a pretty rubbish couple of days anyway. Tell us a little bit about the kind of focus that there has been on Facebook and especially on Instagram as well in the United States.
This comes down to whether or not Facebook has been taking advantage or abusing, as critics would say, its power because it is perhaps the most prolific social media company in the world. There's been this leak to the press about how people working inside Facebook knew that some of the content on Instagram was contributing to a poor psychological state for teenage girls, harming their sense of self-confidence and creating the problem of body dysmorphia, which often does require some sort of medical intervention in order to keep people healthy. There was the really now famous testimony on Capitol Hill last week before a Senate committee looking into how Facebook manages its content, how it prevents people from gaining access to harmful content of all kinds. And that was a rather well-watched and in some cases notorious hearing, because it seemed as if the members of the Senate knew that there were problems, and there were officials from Facebook steadfastly saying that they didn't have any issues, that there weren't any problems. And then we have now seen the woman who worked for Facebook until very recently, who has come forward to say that she leaked the documents to the press because she could see that the social media company wasn't taking these allegations seriously, and that the public needed to know that using Facebook really should come with a warning label. She's going to be testifying on Capitol Hill on Tuesday about what she saw and perhaps what she was involved in while she worked at the California-based company. And then, of course, and not, between these concerns about Facebook abusing its power in the marketplace, as well as not controlling content, there was an impact in the U.S. stock market today. Facebook lost some $7 billion of value during the trading. And so, it's really been a bad day overall for Facebook.
A winner of the $10,000 prize has been announced for the CBC Shop and Win promotion competition. An overjoyed Marquita Seeley was presented with the check at the CBC.
Feel as anybody was awesome, overjoyed. It is a blessing. You listen to the radio, you hear personalities, you say there's a competition, you say, okay, just let me go in just for that. But then to actually win something, it is an overwhelming feeling. I honestly cannot express my gratitude to CBC.
Two counties in the U.S. state of Ohio are set to argue in court that 4 major pharmacy chains are responsible for flooding their communities with addictive pain pills that were part of the wider opioid crisis in the country. While previous cases have targeted drug distributors and manufacturers, the trial in Cleveland that started yesterday is the first to specifically target pharmacies and could set the tone for government entities to make similar claims going forward.
At one of Chicago's black market drug bazaars, Ty can't escape opioids.
How are you doing now?
Bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
He's woken up in an ambulance more than once. He's joined a rehabilitation program, but he can't help coming back for more.
How come?
I'm on drugs real bad. Real bad.
So
I live to use and use to live. Can't sleep without it.
Gonna use again?
Yes, sir.
He'd like to kick the habit, but the draw of opioids is too strong.
This block on Chicago's west side is a fentanyl epicenter. Last year, deaths by opioids went up 30% in Illinois, and 83% of those were due to fentanyl.
Marnell Brown says the fault lies with drug makers who dramatically underplayed the powerful lure of opioids.
It's supposed to be a controlled substance. that's what it that's what it unfolded as, a controlled substance. Now things are out of control.
Many start with legally bought but highly addictive prescription painkillers like oxycodone and move to street corner drugs when their prescriptions run out. The street corner pills they buy are often laced with fentanyl, an opioid 50 to 100 times more powerful than heroin.
They don't know what they're getting. Before they would just get oxycodone, and now the oxycodone is compressed. They're crushing up fentanyl and compressing it onto the pills, all the different pills. So now the street dealers are passing on these drugs to any and everybody.
Every day on Chicago's West Side, John Wright, Marnell Brown, and his brother Kevin Brown patrol for addicts and often find someone overdosing. When they do, they administer Narcan. Kevin has done it so many times the addicts have a name for him.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's just me, Narcan on the scooter man. That's what some people were saying.
For Marnell Brown, a recovered heroin addict, the culpability of opioid manufacturers is personal. He says he can't escape his own responsibility for past drug use, but that for many, addiction is aided and abetted by the industry.
I take this very personal, because I'm a surviving prisoner of that war. I'm a casualty from that war.
A war against addiction that plays out in the streets of every American city and cities around the globe.
In sports, Shimron Hetmyer and the Delhi Capitals are now at the top of the Indian Premier League table with 20 points. After registering a thrilling 3-wicket win over Dwayne Bravo and the Chennai Super Kings yesterday, Hetmyer smashed an unbeaten 28 runs off 18 balls to help Delhi Capitals to the win. Despite CSK only scoring 136 for 5 in the allotted 20 overs, with Ambati Arora stroking 55 not out, the match went down to the wire. In the last 2 overs, the Capitals needed 16 runs to win, and Hetmyer smashed 10 from the 19th. Bravo managed to remove Akshar Patel in the final over, but Kasigo Rabada hit a 4 to finally seal the game for the Capitals, reaching the victory target on 139 for 7 in 19.4 overs. Here are the highlights.
Chance to win 100% of your cash back.
Time now for a look at our weather picture for today. In Barbados right now, it is 25.4 degrees Celsius, but it feels like 33. Humidity stands at 91% and the barometric pressure 13.9 millibars. Winds from the east-southeast at 26 kilometers per hour. The tides, the first low tide will be at 8:55 a.m. and the second at 9:04 p.m. High tide will be at 3:08 p.m. The seas are moderate in open water with swells ranging from 1.5 to 2.5 meters and increasing. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution. And the weather picture for today, partly sunny with a few brief isolated light showers. Tonight is expected to be a mix of clear skies and clouds with a few brief scattered light showers. A look now at the picture in our international cities. That was today's morning report. You can join us again at noon for Newsday. We now join Pearson Bowen for Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
And a very good morning to you everyone, everywhere. Welcome to today, Tuesday, the 5th of October, 2021. I am Pearson Bowen, welcoming all of you here on this beautiful island of ours, 166 square miles and smiles. And certainly good having you company indeed every morning. For those of you across the globe watching us either on our YouTube channel or our Facebook streams, yes, Facebook is back up. Good morning to you and welcome indeed. It's Tuesday, so today Thornwood, our fitness instructor, will join us as we continue to get our bodies back into shape and to again regain fitness in some form of some fashion. Also today, Agent Sharita will come by. Last week, you know, she had some technical difficulties, so we want to tackle again that whole subject of whether you're newly married and should you build, buy, rent, what should you do, or move in one with the other. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we'll meet the man behind the Eiffel School. They're doing some great things in education there as well. And naturally, it's Education Month, so we want to hear some of the differences that that school has brought to the delivery of education on the island. Let's get started this morning by looking at the work of the Commonwealth Secretariat. And joining us now to look at that is Baroness, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, who is CARICOM Secretary General. Good morning to you, Commonwealth Secretary General. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful to be here in beautiful Barbados.
I was just going to say, welcome to my island paradise. Good to have you indeed. And you're here as part of UNTAD because naturally the work that you do at the Commonwealth Secretariat is to focus sharply on assisting and addressing things like climate change, the threat of climate change, inequality, and to bring more equality to the member countries. So talk to me a little bit about what you hope while you're here as part of UNTAD to be able to agitate for and achieve.
We need equality when it comes to the vaccines, and it was such a privilege and pleasure to be invited by the Prime Minister to come and join the other Secretary Generals to raise our voice. You know, Antonio Guterres was here. Also, we have Rebecca Greenspan, together with our wonderful colleague from CARICOM, and it's an opportunity to highlight the injustices that are currently happening. You know, tragedy is, when we look at what is happening on coronavirus, is that we are, all of us in the world, in the same storm. But tragically, we're not in the same boat. If we look at the ability for us to get hold of vaccines, you'll find that small states only have 1.4% of the vaccines globally. And that really is unjust when we look at the fact that not having the vaccines means that there are fewer people who are vaccinated, which means the variants, which are multiplying all over the world, are growing. And so we have to do something about it. So we're raising our voices to say that this unfairness, this inequity has to stop. And I know how hard the foreign minister, Jerome Walcott, has been working as a sterling job to try and make sure that Barbados is coordinating with the other members of CARICOM and elsewhere to get the right level of vaccines. And I applaud everything he is doing to make that coordination possible. And I'm raising my voice to say this has to stop, and we really have to have fairness when it comes to our vaccines. And tomorrow we're going to launch a procurement program, which is going to have a database which our member states in the Commonwealth will be able to use to enable us to know where we can get medicines, equipment, and we will pool our resources, the whole of the Commonwealth, to try and support this effort that's been made by all of us.
Part of the inequity is funding to be able to access a lot of this as well. How can the Commonwealth Secretariat aid in assisting small island developing states in particular who are challenged by this pandemic economically to be able to afford to access these life-saving drugs?
Well, what we're doing is we're pooling our knowledge and our expertise. We've created the Coronavirus Center. We also created the tracker, and the database that I just spoke about is vitally important. When we met together on the margins of the World Health Assembly, the 54 health ministers of our Commonwealth, they highlighted this issue. They said, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to get the vaccines? Because what's happening right now is that the amount we pay differs so greatly. And even when we have the money, we cannot get hold of the vaccines or the medicines. So the whole point of the launch of the website that we're going to launch tomorrow is to enable that information to come forward. But also, if you look at climate change, we are facing the most terrible position. If we do not change what we're doing in relation to our climate, we will all be lost. So the work that we are doing together on the Blue Charter, I went yesterday with your wonderful minister, Minister Humphreys, who is responsible for the blue economy and marine. And we went down to the ports. And with the Commonwealth, we've been giving advice and support as to how to maximize the marine opportunities here in Barbados. 400% more ocean than land. So Barbados is really a big blue economy. And so how we galvanize and get the money for that blue economy is really important. And Barbados is amongst 7 out of the 8 Blue Charter action teams that we've been putting forward to enable us to work on what works and creating the solutions. So the Secretariat has understood that we're facing these Goliath-like problems.
Yes.
And what we are trying to do is to create the perfectly weighted stone for David's sling, so we can bring these Goliaths to book.
What a beautiful analogy indeed. We can see it happening indeed. And we're just ahead of COP26, which happens from the end of this month right through to mid-November. And the work of the Commonwealth Secretariat, no doubt, will be featuring at that particular hosting. It's in Scotland, I believe. What do you see to be the push while you're there so that you get larger nations to recognize how what they do impacts small island developing states like ours here in the Caribbean?
I think we've got to make sure that they actually deliver on the 100 billion that was promised, because adaptation is absolutely vital. We were all 4 Secretary Generals were saying yesterday and over the weekend that we have to have 50% of that money has to go to adaptation. These small countries who have suffered so greatly from what has happened in the past and who are not responsible for it now have to have the means to make that difference. And there are also issues in relation to debt. We've got to look at the fact that a lot of this debt is correlated with these climatic disasters. And so debt is a huge issue. We in the Commonwealth Secretariat have been creating the Universal Vulnerability Index, trying to help people to understand that this vulnerability that we are experiencing has not been created by us. But there's so much more we've done. The Commonwealth has created the Climate Access Hub, which is putting advisors in our countries to help us access that green fund. In the past, it was so difficult. With just 1.5 million pounds, we have already delivered to us, our member states, our small member states, more than $44 million. But we have $760 million in the pipeline, and 70% of that is for adaptation. So it's not just talking about it, we have to do it. And these opportunities are there, but the rest of the world has to wake up and realize that this 1.5 to stay alive is real, because we are seeing it in these islands. The small islands are really suffering. And just as we're suffering with the vaccines, we know that there are only 42 small islands, small countries in the world. That's 41 million of us. We use 41 million vaccines per day. So for just 2 days vaccines, we could have all of our countries vaccinated. And think about the impact that's going to have on our economies. We've already lost $345 billion from our GDP as a result of this coronavirus. And so we have to stop the coronavirus dead, but we also have to make sure that the countries who have been responsible either for helping to create this mayhem helps us also to unpick the consequences. And I think there is the political will, and when we go to COP26 in Glasgow, we have to be resolute that this is our time. We have to do it now, because if we don't do it now, then we're really leaving our children the most terrible future. And our children need to be part of the solution. They have to be at the table, and we have to listen to them. And just as the Prime Minister is doing with the new catapult, we've got to make sure that their voices are heard, their innovations come to bear. And that's what we're doing in the Commonwealth too, with the Commonwealth in Youth Index and my Innovation Awards. And one of the great young people in Barbados won one of the 15 awards, and I'm so proud of him, Joshua Fort. So proud of what he's doing.
Indeed, and you walked right into the area I wanted to go to next, which is your support, the Commonwealth Secretariat's support of innovation, and particularly given what Joshua is doing, looking at sustainable development, sustainable environmental management. And that's what it's about, empowering the young people to be a part of the change and to be able to do so with the support of the Commonwealth Secretariat globally, and hopefully we can all chip away at those things that bother us.
Absolutely.
Now, a lot of what you're also doing is also agitating for equity in trade for economic development. Absolutely. And that is the central theme of Untitled 15. So what are the areas of discussion that you'd like to be able to look at? Because there's inequality as relates to trade in so many different areas.
Well, one of the realities that we've identified is there is a Commonwealth advantage. We know that we have lost more than 345 billion off the GDP. But we also know that there are opportunities in relation to digitalization. We've just issued a report which shows that if we can enhance and bridge the gap between those who have access to the digital world and those who do not, we will be able to make an exponential difference and increase. We already know that intra-Commonwealth trade, there was, before the coronavirus hit us, almost $700 billion with intra-Commonwealth trade. We've slipped back during coronavirus, but we're hoping that by 2022, next year, we may be back up to that 700 billion, and we want to get to 2 trillion by 2030. Now, there's a lot we can do together in terms of sharing expertise, making sure that the intellectual property is moved forward. But look at what we're doing on the Climate Finance Access Hub. These projects are new industries. The blue economy, which I was seeing being chased so hard by Minister Humphreys, that is where we're going to get a huge opportunity for our young people, but also for ourselves, because we have to have a regenerative model of sustainable development, which is built on this new technology. And I've been saying that human genius got us into this mess, and human genius is going to have to get us out. And our young people have been so inspirational. One of the reasons that I created the Secretary General's Innovation Awards is to spotlight the huge opportunities and innovation that is taking place right across the Commonwealth, and to give it space to breathe, because these young people and others, because I have to tell you that we've had some fantastic older innovators who we've been able to really support, and this is going to take absolutely all of us. So it's the practical things that we need to do to be the difference. And everything that we're doing, we've created 42 implementation toolkits. We are training our civil servants so that they can be the engine for driving on performance management. So everything is not just what do we say, but we are saying at COP, we're saying in relation to trade, what are we going to do? And how can we put the tools into the hands of our people who are ingenious? I mean, this region is amazing. We have the best of everyone. If you look at who we are, we come from every region, every race. We have every religion within our Commonwealth, but we have them right here in the Caribbean. And we need to be the pathfinders. And our genius is what is going to help us to get out of this. And the Commonwealth Secretariat, we are doing everything we can to put those tools into the hands of our people so they can deliver an innovative, creative, dynamic, really excellent future. And our human capital is what's going to get us there. And we are building that human capital to come up with the solutions.
We're already feeling and seeing the growth. We have to leave it right there, Baroness Scotland. But it is heartening to know that the ongoing work from the Commonwealth Secretariat really is going to redound to the benefit of all of the peoples of the Commonwealth, and particularly us in the region. And because you are spearheading it, we know it will happen. So thank you so much for joining us today, Baroness Scotland, for sharing with us as Commonwealth Secretary General. This is, you know, there's so many seas in the Caribbean. It's something else.
I know. But I just want to say, you know,
yes.
Your Prime Minister has led so brilliantly, not just the Barbados, but the whole world, and your ministers are kicking it out of the park. Proud of what Jerome Walcott's doing, proud of what Mr. Humphreys is doing. So we need to say a big thank you to Barbados and your wonderful team.
Thank you so very much. We're very humbled by that. Baroness Patricia Scotland, Commonwealth Secretary General, joining us this morning on Morning Barbados. Thank you. Have a good day and a good stay on this island as well.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Morning Barbados will continue right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
11 and a half minutes now to go to 7 o'clock. It is Education Month under the theme Education Reimagined, Exploring New Frontiers for Teaching, Learning and National Development in 2021. Joining us now to look at that theme and what the Education Ministry will be doing to really make that theme live is Dr. Denise Charles, who is the Education Officer and Chair of the Planning Committee. Along with her is Randy Eastman, a peripatetic teacher, Planning Committee as well. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning, Pearson.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Now, this is a very loaded theme. There's so much wrapped up in those words. How are you going to be able to achieve all that in 1 month?
Well, I think it is the start of a conversation that has been ongoing for quite some time at the Ministry of Education with respect to our realization that while our education system that we treasure and value so much as Barbadians has served us so well in the past, and it has enabled many of us to rise and to be able to have jobs and to make a positive contribution to the development of our country. And while we applaud that, we do recognize that in the 21st century, the way that our education system looks, the way it functions, must indeed be different from what it was when it began, especially when we moved into free education. So while we are by no means, trivializing what happened prior to this time, we recognize that this is the 21st century and we must do things differently if we're hoping to emerge a new Barbados, a Barbados which can stand on the global stage and contribute significantly to the development of our nation.
And I know of the work of Randy Eastman. Randy, as a peripatetic teacher. That's just one of those words that you don't like to have to call, but here it is. You had to challenge me this morning to say it. But you're one of those teachers who has a multiple set of skill sets and disciplines that you teach. So talk to me a little bit about what you do and how it is playing a pivotal role into the reimagining of education.
Well, as a peripatetic teacher, my basic role is to function within the schools and assist teachers in the area of music. That is my area of specialty, working on with Dr. Charles, who is the education officer for the arts. And essentially, I assist with pedagogy, methodology of music teachers and how they approach the teaching of music. And with the advent of the coronavirus and having to go to a virtual environment right now, we've had to innovate in terms of how we implement music within the classroom, within the virtual classroom, looking at various online options and the utilization of technology to ensure that music learning and music education still takes place within the classroom. So it has been challenging, but the technology is there, and the teachers have been, very innovative in the way that they've implemented music within the classroom in this particular virtual environment.
It's incorporating all of the different modalities of education, Dr. Charles. And so how are you going to allow other people to contribute to this broader discussion?
Okay, Pearson. Well, for Education Month, as you mentioned the theme already, the idea is to engage all of our constituents in the discussion, in the sharing of knowledge, the sharing of ideas, the sharing of perspectives, so that as a Ministry of Education, we can move forward so that what we hope to realize in terms of the reimagination of education is something that is living and breathing, and it has been contributed to by all of our stakeholders. And that includes our educational leaders, or parents, or teachers, or students, so that is why this month is pegged as it is. And as Randy rightfully said, the fact that we've had to pivot to the online environment because of COVID-19, it has required us to really stretch ourselves, and we really salute and applaud all of our teachers who have been working very hard in terms of being innovative and investing in their own professional development, because I know a lot of teachers have done this, a lot of education officers have done this in terms of going online, accessing courses so that they're better able to guide and lead this new type of teaching that we are all required to do now as a consequence of COVID. And while we do recognize that COVID has caused us to pivot, we must also recognize that we are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, the digital age, and even prior to COVID and after COVID has gone, we won't be going back. There will be no going back to what we were before, because we are in a new age. We live in a digital world. We do everything digitally. We bank digitally, we work digitally. We've been doing these things for quite some time. So it is time that education played catch up, as it were. And even though we know we've had several schools on the island who have been utilizing digital technologies, since EduTech 2000, there have been some schools leading in this regard, while it has not been right across the system. But we're moving right now to have it more integrated across the system. And during this time of Education Month, we want to focus on those discussions where we are able to talk about what is actually happening in the system and what we need to do further. And in this regard, we want to say that at the Ministry of Education right now, we are facilitating a series of training sessions with our primary school teachers. This started actually last academic year, and it is continuing now, where they are being exposed to training in digital pedagogy. We have partnered with Tampere University out of Finland, and through the sponsorship of the IDB, we are able to facilitate these series of training sessions with our teachers. And this is something that will be ongoing, so that more and more teachers across our system are exposed to what it means to teach in the online environment, because you can't just take what you did face-to-face and put it smack dab in the middle of the virtual environment. There is specific training to help you engage our students, to help teachers, engage their students in the online environment.
There's so much that you're planning already for the month. I know we don't have enough time to go through each of them, but one of the things that I want to single out to, because we're going to have to do a part 2 to this for real, is you're going to be having conversations on special needs education. Now, if you know me on this show, you know that I'm very passionate about special needs, having to experience it myself. So I'm glad that you're able to do so, where you encourage people who have children who have special needs. teachers who are passionate about children with special needs to look at how we can reimagine this in this digital space so that they too can receive the level of education that they deserve. So how is that going to be organized, and when can we begin those conversations?
Okay, first person, let me make it known that all of our events this year are virtual. So everything is virtual, starting with our launch church service tomorrow morning. And this is going to be viewed via MRD's YouTube channel and on Facebook, their Facebook page. So we're asking you, if you haven't yet subscribed to MRD's Media Resource Department or Media Resource Department, subscribe to their YouTube channel so you can watch what is actually happening. The conversations on special needs will feature some of our experts in the Ministry of Education who will be discussing what has been happening in special needs across our nation. So you get to hear from them what is actually happening in our schools. And this also will be featured on MRD's YouTube channel. And actually, if you want to get a list of everything and when it's happening, you can follow MRD on Instagram and on Facebook, where we will have an entire list of everything. But we do start tomorrow with a virtual church service. And then, very, very important, Pearson, we actually have the discussion on the theme itself. And that discussion is going to feature some of our leading educators. Our Chief Education Officer, Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw, will be on the panel along with Dr. Ian Marshall from the University of the West Indies, along with Mr. Mark Hill from Barbados, from BIDC, as well as the CEO of the NCF, Mrs. Carol Roberts-Reefer. That's going to be a very, very interesting discussion. We also have Mr. Henderson Eastman from the TVET Council, because we're thinking about the reimagination of education. What should education look like? And we are very much aware of the fact that many people still continue to see education in a very traditional framework. And while we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, we want to extend our views and our perspectives on what education can do and how dynamic it can be in the 21st century. So that panel discussion promises to be very interesting and enlightening.
I can't wait to hear more. That's why I have to have a part two. Randy, I'm sorry, I wish I could have gone some more to you, but we will have Denise, there has to be a part two. So I'm pleading with my producer, let's arrange this very soon so we can continue, because there's so much on the calendar of events that we want to highlight so that everyone knows more about what the work of the Ministry of Education and how they can engage as well. So I want to thank you so much, both of you, for joining me on this relatively short space of time, and thank you for being so patient as well. But we look forward to engaging with you very soon again on these subjects and a whole lot more on education. Thank you, Dr. Denise Charles and Randy Eastman.
I'm going to hold you to that, Pearson.
You can hold me to it. You know I'm a man to my word.
I will.
You know that. So both of you, we're welcoming you back very, very shortly. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Pearson.
You're very welcome. We're continuing with Morning Barbados right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So it's at the top of the hour now. Let's catch you up with the news. Once again, here's Wendy Burke.
Thank you, Pearson. As UNCTAD 15 enters day 2, one of the major talking points on the agenda that came up yesterday was the inequitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. Global leaders are discussing new solutions to this disparity. They saying that it could cost lives. CBC's Aaliyah Briggs reports.
As wealthy countries around the globe begin their vaccine booster campaign, there continues to be glaring vaccine inequalities that need to be addressed. Only around 2% of people in low-income countries have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. In the presence of UN Secretary General and UNCTAD Secretary General, Prime Minister Mia Mottley made a call for global solidarity on the matter. She suggests establishing vaccine manufacturing and bottling plants in regions with limited access will improve capacity to distribute doses to those most in need.
We can only ask that all of our actions move to a point of vaccine equity. And we can only ask that there also be an urgency about identifying locations such as ours and others in other parts of the world to become locations for the manufacturing and or bottling of vaccines, so as to ensure a more ready capacity to distribute to those most in need.
According to Prime Minister Mottley, this issue must be treated with urgency if the UN is to meet its target of vaccinating 70% of each country's population by 2022.
I do not accept that it is impossible for us to achieve that. I do not accept that it is impossible for vaccine and manufacturing and bottling plants to be available throughout every region in this world to ensure the shortest distance to people's arms.
These comments come as world leaders and global health organizations have become increasingly vocal about the disparity in vaccine access between residents of wealthier and poorer nations. Aaliyah Briggs, CBC News.
And among today's UNCTAD highlights will be the arrival of the President of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. He's scheduled to arrive in the island at 1:15 a.m. to a guard of honor. The Kenyan President will be met by Barbados' Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott. While there have been reports of some students and teachers grappling with the online learning environment, one school has managed to make it work to their advantage. Syncytial's Boys is giving online learning the thumbs up as it enhanced overall grades performance as seen at the common entrance level. Deputy Principal of Syncytial's, Kevin Hurdle, says they were able to increase their average marks in both maths and English.
We have tried to come up with as comprehensive plan and approach as possible in terms of how we sought to deal with the challenges of going online. So this is by not only having trained and familiarize our staff with the platforms we use, and for example, we make use heavily of the Zoom platform and the Google Classroom or G Suite platform. And it has been, again, it has had its challenges, but nonetheless, we have approached it with the necessary alacrity, the desire to see that our students are still given a program that is comprehensive and the material as well that is engaging to them at times. Because, you know, that is something that I'm sure you may have heard people may say that provides somewhat of a challenge. You know, we live in a time whereby we can say this is generation alpha, as it may be termed in academic circles, and the students have a great degree of familiarity with all things digital. But at the same time, the platform itself has to be very engaging to continue to capture their attention.
The winner of the $10,000 prize in the CBC Shop and Win promotion competition was announced yesterday. An overjoyed Marquita Seeley was presented with her check right here at the Pine.
I feel as anybody was awesome, overjoyed. It is a blessing. You know, you listen to the radio, you hear personalities. You say there's a competition. You say, okay, just let me go in just for that. But then to actually win something, it is an overwhelming feeling. I honestly cannot express my gratitude to CBC.
That's it for news. I now turn you back over to Pearson Booing for Morning Barbados.
Thank you, Wendy Burke. It's 6 minutes after 7 o'clock. We'll take a break here, and we're back with our Crumbs question of the day after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
7:30 after 7. Time for you to call me on 228-5562 or 228-5563. Those numbers again, 222 or 228-5563. Time for today's Crumbs question of the day. A chance for you to win, of course, with Crumbs. Remember, there's a Crumbs location very near to you. Go out today and check it out. Here's that question. Where in Barbados can you find the only working sugarcane mill? Where in Barbados can you find the only working sugarcane mill? Easy, weasy, Japanese, I know. So then call me now. 228-5562 or 63. Good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
That's good to hear. Of course, my usual question, St. Philip, right?
Yes.
All right, Meld. So what's your answer for me today?
The only working sugarcane mill is in Morgan Lewis in Andrew. You said sugarcane mill, not sugarcane factory.
Yeah, I know what I said. And I'm giving you a chance to correct yourself if you choose to do so.
To correct myself?
If you choose to do so.
It's in St. Andrew.
Pardon me?
It's in St. Andrew.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the answer. So you're sticking with that same answer?
Barbados, can you find only working sugarcane mill?
Melda, you're getting beside yourself. I love it. You're absolutely right, Morgan Lewis. It's in Barbados, it's in St. Andrew. But to be more specific, right? I love it. Melda, you're so right. It is indeed Morgan Lewis. Here am I challenging you and you're spot on right. Well done, well done.
You like to challenge me, yeah.
So stay on the phone, Mel. There's more information from you. She's correct when she said the only working sugar mill is found at Morgan Lewis. And yes, you can go visit Morgan Lewis and see how it operates. It's open. And of course, you know, all protocols to be observed. And because all protocols will be observed, Crumbs Bakery will be contacting our girl Melda to make arrangements with her for the collection of her winnings today. We're going to take a break. It's 10 after the hour. And we're coming right back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So 12 minutes now after 7 o'clock, as you would have seen there on your TV screens. Yes, all week next week we're asking you to spot the pink ribbon. Spot the pink ribbon for a chance to win. You have to keep watching every single day next week because you just don't know when it's going to pop up. Spot it, identify that location, note the day on which you saw it. So I want to know if it's Monday, October the 11th, Tuesday, October the 12th, and you note the location. And then you will drop us an email at the end of the week with each day's location as you have identified it. And at the end of the month, you could be the big winner of some wonderful prizes with the Barbados Breast Screening Program. So get ready for that opportunity starting Monday. So keep watching every single day and identify where you've seen and spotted the pink ribbon. June Wickham, who's our office assistant here, is celebrating her big birthday today. So June, we know you're on holiday. That is the crowd in the back. Yeah, that's them. They're keeping a lot of noise in celebration of your big day today. June, enjoy your birthday. We know you're watching, but you're most of all getting some time to rest indeed. So let's continue at 13 past the hour now by looking at our pediatric care with our favorite pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood. Dr. Birchwood, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you too. I love that color on you. It just suits you.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome indeed. Now, it is what they call the flu, gastroenteritis, hand, foot, and mouth disease season for our young ones in particular. So there's a lot for a parent to try to manage all at one time. What do we do so that we prevent our children from coming down with any one of them?
Yes, unfortunately, 'tis the season. And we're not thinking about Christmas. We're thinking about exactly what you talked about. RSV, flu, hand, foot, and mouth, and gastro. And at this time of year, young children are particularly susceptible to picking up one of these illnesses. Last year, we didn't see this quite so much because of COVID and all the precautions that were being taken. This year, we hope that it will be the same, but we've already seen in climes further north that they have seen a resurgence of RSV, and we expect fully that that is going to come our way. So it's really important for parents to be aware of these diseases, how they are contracted, what they can do to protect their children from them, and how to treat them if unfortunately they do actually pick them up.
Mm-hmm. What is RSV, by the way?
RSV stands for Respiratory Syncytial Virus. You know, we use a lot of acronyms in medicine, mostly because we have big, long words,
yes,
just so that we sound really intelligent. But really and truly, these acronyms are just a lot easier for us to say than the actual words. So RSV is a virus that can affect children, especially very young children, those who are newborns and right up. And it is something that we worry about because in very young children, it can cause, you know, something as simple as what looks like the cold. But in some cases, it can cause much more severe disease and cause children to be hospitalized. So we for parents to be aware of RSV as well.
So how do you know? What are some of the symptoms we need to look out for so that we don't confuse what we're actually experiencing?
Right. So in the beginning, or in most children, I should say, you may have a cough, runny nose. In older children, they might describe a sore throat, and you can have a fever. But what makes it different is that it can also cause infection in the lower chest. So not just in the upper airways, it can cause infection in the chest. And that can show up like wheezing or asthma. And it can cause what we call bronchiolitis, which is different from bronchitis. So if it does cause bronchiolitis, you may see children who have wheezing and you might notice that they might have breathing difficulty. So you might notice that they're breathing rapidly. In severe cases, they may have blueness around their lips. And in other cases, it can actually cause, you might notice that the ribs are sucking in. So that's one of the signs that you'd want to look for, and it would make you know, okay, this is more than just a regular cold. I definitely need to seek medical help at this point. And some children are more at risk than others. Premature babies, babies who have heart conditions, And children who have lung conditions, things like asthma, etc., if they've had to be on oxygen, they are at much greater risk. And in those children, it can cause quite severe disease requiring hospitalization and intensive care. So in most children, it is just a mild disease, but in a certain subset of children, it can be much more severe and concerning.
So don't ignore it. Don't at all ignore it. Deal with it as quickly as possible. Head to your pediatrician, your doctor, and get it resolved. But the flu is the flu is the flu, the way we accept it. We say it's the flu, just rub it down with some candle grease and some Vicks and all will be well. Sweat it out. But when it comes to children, you can't just go for those old wives' responses, can you?
Yes, I've heard so much about the candle grease. I learned about that when I came to Barbados.
It works.
And I'm sure it's quite useful. Exactly. So, the flu, people tend to think of it as just being a cold, and it really is so much more than the cold. You can have much more intense symptoms than with the cold: high fever, headaches, muscle aches. Children can have vomiting and diarrhea with the flu, which is something that people aren't always aware of, in addition to your runny nose and sore throat, etc. So the influenza can be quite a significant illness. And again, the danger signs would be looking out for signs of difficulty breathing, like we described earlier, breathing fast, seeing your ribs sucking in or sucking in at the bottom of your neck. That can be a sign that your child is struggling. And they can become dehydrated because if they're not feeding well, you haven't seen them pass any urine for 6 to 8 hours, and they're not drinking well, those can be danger signs. And the good news is that flu is preventable with the annual flu vaccine, and that can be given to children from 6 months and up. So it is definitely advisable, especially in those who have young children in their households or whose children have conditions like asthma. The flu can kill in rare situations, can be quite dangerous. And in children who have sickle cell disease in particular, it can be very dangerous. So it's really important to protect yourself and prevent the flu where possible.
The one that I want to talk about, though, is the hand, foot, and mouth disease, because that's a very painful experience for children.
Yes.
But how do you recognize it to be hand, foot, and mouth disease?
Yes, hand, foot, and mouth is just one of the worst childhood illnesses because it can make children so uncomfortable. They have painful sores in their mouth, and then they can have the typical rash on their hands and their feet. And sometimes the rash on their hands and their feet may not be so very noticeable, and so they will show up with a fever, a fussy and uncomfortable child because they're not able to swallow because of the pain. You may see them drooling, and that's quite noticeable in older children especially because they don't want to swallow, it's so painful. And they can have an offensive odor on their breath. Not the sweet little baby breath that they normally have, but a terrible offensive odor that something is just wrong. Many times parents don't notice the ulcers in the mouth because they can be hidden down in the pockets and in the folds of the cheeks. And so it's something that the doctor may notice when the child comes because they may have the suspicion that it is actually hand, foot, and mouth disease. So if you have a child who's having a high fever, drooling, offensive odor to the mouth, refusing to feed, you could be dealing with hand, foot, and mouth, which, as you said, is really quite painful and uncomfortable.
I can hear parents asking two questions. One, where did it come from? How did my child get this? And then what do I do? So let's see if we can answer both. Where did it come from? And then what do I do?
So, hand, foot, and mouth is one of those highly contagious childhood illnesses, and they can pick it up by touch. So, children love to share toys. They're constantly mouthing things. You see them come home with toys that don't belong to them, and they have put their mouth all over it. So one child has mouthed a toy, puts it down, toddles off. The other child comes up, mouths a toy. It sounds terrible, but that's just the reality of childhood. And then that's how they pick it up. Or in older children, you go to the supermarket, they touch the handle of the shopping cart, or they touch the door of the store that you've gone into. Somebody else who has it has done that. Then their hands go straight into their mouth, and voila, you have the hand, foot, and mouth disease. So it's very highly transmissible. But then what to do about it? There isn't much you can do once you have it already. If you already have it, you're going to be engaging in what we call supportive care. So there's no pill that's going to make it go away. You're going to make sure you give them pain relief with, something like Panadol or children's Advil liquid. You can talk to your doctor about it because you don't want the child to refuse to drink.
Yes.
And then you can give them lots of cold liquids to just help ease the, and soothe the. And this is where anything is on the table, whatever, admitted to hospital, simply because they refuse to drink. And that does happen in severe cases of hand, foot, and mouth disease. So supportive care until it runs its horrible course and is all over with.
You know what, children, you can't wrap children in that little cotton wool and have them go off into the world. So how can we help our children protect themselves, and how can we help ourselves protect our children?
You've raised a very good point, Pearson. You can't protect them from everything. And the truth is, it is important for children to have childhood illnesses. As unpleasant as it is, it helps to build their immune system. So we can't avoid everything, and it does actually serve a purpose. But you don't want to pick up everything that goes by. It really is quite traumatic. So you have to teach them from early about hand hygiene, about not putting their hands in their mouth and in their eyes, because those exposed surfaces are great at picking up infections. And you want to teach them about, cleaning their hands with the hand sanitizers, etc. The advent of COVID has made this a lot easier. It's being taught much more, and so parents are very much more aware, and children too. They are little sponges. They pick up everything that they are taught. So
Yes,
that's
indeed.
really important.
I mean, the boys don't leave home without hand sanitizer, which is a good thing. And so you're seeing that they're not now experiencing the things that you've been talking about. So folks, parents, it's the flu, gastroenteritis, RSV, hand, foot and mouth disease season. Let's do the best we can to teach our children right and to protect our children from experiencing these very painful, in some instances, dangerous viruses as well. But check your pediatrician, check your medical doctor as soon as you begin to see some of the symptoms present. Dr. Birchwood, as always, thank you so much again for joining us on this Tuesday morning in our pediatric care session. It be God's will, we look forward to having another one with you next Tuesday. All the best.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
Likewise, you're welcome indeed. We're coming right back after this, looking at the work of the Eiffel School after this break.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
27 after 7 o'clock, we've said to you already for the morning. It's Education Month this month of October. Reimagined Education. We're looking at exploring new frontiers for teaching, learning and national development. And one of those institutions doing so is the Eiffel School. The principal behind it, named after him, Akil Eiffel. Good morning to you, Akil.
Hi, good morning, Pearson. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming through, man. Thank you so much. I saw on your Facebook page some successes coming out of the recently held Common Interest examinations. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I want to say it is a team effort. It isn't something that, I can personally take credit for. I have to also thank the teachers before, also my dad, Mr. Patrick Eiffel, who was a former principal as well, and he's a math teacher. But to jump ahead a little bit to talk about the results, it isn't just the students who would have scored 90%. We've had students, honestly, who would have struggled that scored 20 and 30 when they first came to the school. I've always asked parents if they can reference their names before I, say them publicly. We have students like Asher Laria who, he struggled. He unfortunately lost his grandmother throughout the academic year. So did our top student, Shiv, who scored 100 in maths as well. He lost his sister, last year. And it shows that there are things that you can do if you're innovative. And innovation isn't something that you can just make up. It's a word I find that many people bandy around and say that they're creative. But when you analyze what is being done, then you have to look at how do you treat that innovation. So I know that you have a question for me, Pearson. I know. I'm waiting for the question.
The question is, because what is your approach? Because I know that you've taken a somewhat different approach to the delivery of education in terms of the structure of the school year, the way you approach subjects and so forth. So for those who don't know, explain to us what it is that you do at the Eiffel School to cause you to get these kinds of results.
Okay, so for starters, we started under Eiffel Education Inc. We would have done camps and lessons over the years, and we would have had success with those programs. Then we ventured into doing summer camps. At the time, we were the #1 educational summer camp at a time when others said that summer camps, educational summer camps were not needed for students. But we realized that there was a deficit within the system, and it is not a knock against the government system or private schools or anything like that. They're just students out there struggling. So I decided to open a school. I think I had the idea for it about 2017. And in 2018, in September, we opened the school. There are many people that believe the Eiffel School has been around for 10 and 11 years. But it comes, like I said, from a culture of innovation and branding. I've been a graphic designer since I was 9. My brother's an animator. He does stuff for Netflix. I've represented the island in karate and done, as you know, parish ambassadors and pageants and so forth. So you take all of that background and you try to build a school that nobody is looking for. And one of the things that we said that we wanted at that time was 4 terms. And many people scoffed at the idea. Most of the time, people scoffed at the ideas. They said the uniforms didn't look great. But when they saw us parade at Knapsack, everyone was in wow. They saw the games uniforms. They saw us at the parade at the at Kensington Oval. Everyone was like, "Wow, those uniforms!" Everywhere the student goes, And then we're the only private school to have also done night sports. We're the only school to have done sports on the weekend. The only primary school. There are a lot of things that we have innovated, and then the next phase for that would have been online school. And I would have said to parents over the course of the year, and last year and the year before, that we wanted to have a digital school. And one of the hallmarks of a digital school is not just hardware, which I find every other school or, ministry would have focused on buying tablets. And online school or online learning is so much more than just having a tablet or a device. So I will wait until, I know you so well, Pearson, I'm not going to prompt the question.
Because I want to know then, you say it's more than hardware. What is it then?
Okay, good. So given the background that we have in computer science as well, you can't just say, let's go and use G Suite. G Suite predominantly is a folder-based system. Anyone that has done any serious level of programming or coding would know that you can't just build a website either. You have to manage the way the learner moves through the process. So then we built our own platform way back in March 2020, and we would have been the first school to have been online. But this word online is bandied around like you're saying you're eating chocolate. Okay, there's chocolate and then there's chocolate.
Yes.
So what I'm talking about is a harmonious marriage between the hardware and software. So I told parents from since last year that all students will be required to purchase one of these, which is an iPad. Okay, so every student at the Eiffel School has an iPad. And the reason for that is that one, when you're diagnosing issues, it makes it easier to have everyone have the same exact device. And because Apple's ecosystem is one that merges hardware and software, unlike Android and Microsoft, you have different devices that will have different hardware specs and different types of software, like Windows 10 or Windows 11, Android 10, 11, etc. Apple system, they update, they do regular updates, and then the apps work better. So we built a portal that can manage offline and online work. We are constantly improving. Like last year, we had submissions, and then this year said, no, let's work on something a little bit more innovative. So now our students do not have to submit any work. We have something we call digital paper. And I'm so sorry that next time I heard you say to Randy, and I know Randy and Dr. Charles as well, personally, and they do fantastic work at the ministry. And I would like to come back for the part 2 because I would like you to see, Pearson, how we teach at the Eiffel School. It is vastly different to any other experience you have encountered, and I can guarantee that.
Well, I'm glad we're going to put you down on the list of re-invitees for sure. So, but how have the children been engaging with this change? Have they resisted? Have they just embraced it completely?
I'm glad you asked that. That is a very important question. So again, the device. So the thing about the iPad is that you have one device that can do video conferencing. Last Friday, we started a filmmaking course. We were using iMovie, then they will move into LumaFusion. Because again, I said my brother's an animator, there's animation software he's going to be teaching the students. So it isn't just math and English. There's a secondary school component. And one of the advantages would be that students get the opportunity to learn at their own pace. So they actually enjoy that. We have parents like Jazara. Jazara's mom, she lives in Bermuda. I'm pretty sure she's listening right now. And she's able to follow what is going on because the main advantage of online learning as well is that parents can actually see how the teacher is teaching. And I know that in the public school system, that highlighted positives and it highlighted negatives. But for us, the children, honestly, they really enjoy it. One child was at the beach. And when I asked them what was going on, they turned on the camera. I'm like, oh, we're at the beach. Because even when we teach, students do not have on the video cameras. And I need to make that point because I've heard a lot of conversation about having the students have on the video cameras. We don't have that issue. They don't need to have on the cameras because, you know, they're there and they're supposed to do the work. And you don't have the type of control that you would if it's face-to-face. So you have to make that through the digital platform.
Yeah. There's so much more we could talk about, but you know there's going to be the part 2. So for sure, we will pick up from there in part 2. So Akil, again, thank you for joining us, but thank you for inspiring us through what you do there at the Eiffel School as well. We see the results. We saw all of the results. And now there's a greater respect for what you do, and I hope that in time everybody just acknowledges it fully and that they can see there's a different way to learn, one that's more engaging, more fun, and it's just different. And if you want your child to be different, the Eiffel School. Thank you so much, Akil. All the best.
Thanks, man. You too.
You're welcome indeed. Morning Barbados continues right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
That's right, we're going to shine the light right now and put our looking glass straight onto real estate. And to join us right now to talk more about this is our girl, Agent Sharita. Mrs. Odell, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson.
I love your reaction, it's sweet. Listen, last week, I hope you have your internet connection is solid this week around, you know.
Yes, it was the electricity. It just went off and had me in trouble.
Right. That's right, and all of us in trouble. But we want to pick up, or at least do what we wanted to do last week. Look at those newly married couples and your decision. Do I move in with one? Or do I buy? Do I rent? What do I do? So let's start there.
Yes, well, just going back to the anecdote of when I first got married, we were going out to our first family activity together, all excited. And before we could get through the hotel door to go to this luncheon good, an auntie came up to me and she couldn't even say good morning. The first thing she said, "So, okay, now you're starting to build? Huh? You started?" I was like, can we enjoy our time together? Can we get to know one another first? So you find in Caribbean society, there is so much pressure that your marriage is not stamped, sealed, and signed unless you are buying or building something. That ratifies that you are really married. So we unfortunately tend to come to the table with that pressure in our heads.
But you know, the pressure can be eased sometimes when one of the partners already has their own home. And, you know, a decision also has to be made there. But there's some things about that we need to be a little bit careful about too, don't you think? Or is it that I got married to you, so suddenly yours is now mine?
Oh, listen. I believe the Lord said, leave and cleave. Pay attention to the instructions, okay? And part of leaving and cleaving is not leave and go over to one side. You leave.
Yes.
Leave everything that you have and start afresh. No, let's be honest. The reality is in these economic times, not everybody can immediately do that. So if you do have to make the decision, all right, John, we can live by you. Let's put a timeline on that with a goal in mind, because what happens is when I go over to John's house and realize that this is the way John keeps his house, I am in there ready to change and disrupt things. Yeah? And I feel also too like a visitor in his house, like a guest, not like if it is my house.
Yes.
You know? So that is part of the leaving and cleaving, that you get to go off and make something that is both of your own. So I say, even if you have to do that because of financial constraints, that's okay. You gotta still be practical, but let us set a timeline so that I don't feel like the intruder in your space as opposed to your happy, beloved wife.
But this timeline comes with a cost, of course, you know. So just got married, you'll choose either to go rent, cost. You will choose to either stay at home, cost, but you're building later on, cost as well. So how soon after do you think, would you recommend, or is it left to the couple, how soon after marriage do you start that project of building? Or what do you do in the interim?
I believe that even though you're kind of setting a timeline, let's call it an ETA, estimated time of arrival.
Yes.
Okay, you don't want to put the pressure on yourself. That woman Sharita get from TV and say in 6 months, gone, you got the down payment. No. Let's have an estimated time of arrival or guide time. So we might even start off by saying, you know what, let's rent for 6 months, or at least until we have not just the deposit for a home, if you want to go that route, or to build, because people often feel good. We got the 10%, let me roll. No. Let's start thinking too of insurance. What is if we buy a house, what is the annual insurance policy going to be? What are the running costs? How much is it going to cost to pay Bob to mow the lawn every single month? And insurance, how much is that going to cost as well? So we start getting a financial picture of what we need and start working towards that goal. And then we can decide, okay, once we have, I'm just saying hypothetically, $30,000 to our name, which puts us in the comfort zone, then let's step out and either, buy or build something. So let's have a plan.
Indeed. And part of that plan might include children. It might include, whether or not at some stage you want to build with or have the home where you can bring an elderly parent should it come to that. So plan it. That's the whole point, to plan it out. Don't just jump
Yes.
and then you figure, oh my goodness, I've just jumped into something I should not have jumped into. Sit and
Correct.
plan the process forward. And then you make a decision. But in making that decision, should I make that decision in conjunction with you, my real estate agent, or who do I talk to?
Well, I mean, there's so much out there in terms of resources. Of course, yes, I can certainly guide you with what I have available. I will say, first of all, in terms of allow yourself, I'm an advocate for renting before you do anything else as a newlywed couple, because it allows you the opportunity to, first of all, find out where do we feel comfortable living based on our lifestyle, our commutes to work, our parents, etc. Where do we feel comfortable living? And the beauty of renting, you don't have any major obligations over your head. You can give a month's notice and skip out to somewhere else. You know, you don't have to insure your property except for contents insurance if you so please. But you don't have major constraints on top of your head, and it allows you to develop some clarity as your relationship grows, which is the priority. The relationship growing in the first place, not just being saddled by adult life and adult issues. So, you know, clarity and then plan. And then, of course, you can reach out to me and see what I have on offer in terms of rental or even buying thereafter.
I mean, part of the discussion, I suspect, would be who carries the major burden, you know, because you're not necessarily in the same job receiving the same pay. So who carries the greater burden here of responsibility when it comes to paying for what needs to be done?
Yes. So men, this is where I can give you all a little ease. I can help you all out. Men, I know the badge of honor of being the provider has been stamped on you from time in memoriam, okay? But being provider doesn't mean that every single thing is on you. And that's where a lot of men feel the strain. They so want to be good husbands that the mortgage is mine, the supermarket bills, the utility bills, because I'm providing for my family. No. Part of provision might be that you are helping to provide the financial chart of operations between you two. You know, sit down and be sensible. If Kathy is making the majority of the money and right now you just got laid off or whatever, you might decide, look, I can handle utility bills, electricity and something, but are you able to even help with the mortgage until I get back full-time work? Do not flog yourself. Work together. That's what marriage is about. Compromise. Work together with a plan so that even if you want to wear the provider hat all the days of your life, the goal is to get there. Okay? Men, you all right? I'm helping you out.
We're ever so thankful. We couldn't have said it even better than that, indeed. Because you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that a lot of couples struggle with. You know, where the expectation is that he does all of these things and she just allows it to happen. And so when those tough times come, there's friction. And we're trying to avoid the friction indeed. So the sooner we're able to sit and have those discussions as a couple, then the better it is going forward.
Yes, indeed. And remember, it's just all about working together. Ladies, we are to be the helpmeet as spouses. And, you know, in this modern era, I believe, yes, in traditional roles and so forth, but compromise, planning, and cooperation, that is what would help also drive a happy marriage forward, which has to be at the forefront before you could talk about renting, moving in, buying, or building.
So true. Agent Sharita, thanks a lot again for joining us as always on this Tuesday morning. 233-8888. Those are the numbers to call, folks. 233-8888. Those are the numbers to Agent Sharita or Real Estate Barbados 246 across all of your social media platforms. And let's begin to engage with Agent Sharita to see the dreams come true as well. Thank you so very much for joining us as always. Morning Barbados will continue right after this. You know, with all the best will in the world, some things happen. Thorn, good morning to you.
Good morning, Beardsley. Good morning. How are you doing?
I am all right. Thank you so much for asking. You know, now you see what we go through every single day. Sometimes when these things do happen, and I know inside Thorn, because I didn't see him come up as well. So yeah, so about the campaign quickly.
Oh yeah. So guys, remember we told you that for October, Caliphate and Level Up, we were teaming up to do a full fitness promotion for the month of October. That's the anniversary, right? So let me just list these things really quickly that you have a chance to win. So you have 2 1-month memberships, 2 2-week memberships, 2 shirts, and about 5-day passes, guys. So some of our challenges include wall balls, release burpees, push-ups. You have a row and ski challenge for calories. Just come down and speak to any of the trainers and say, you know what, hey, I'm here to win. I'm here to win a membership. I am here to win that week. Like my wife or my husband or somebody, you can win something, you can gift it to somebody. It's getting close to Christmas. People are going to want to get their transformations on. And speaking of transformations, remember guys, we were selecting 2 persons, 1 male, 1 female, to do a full transformation. Us, Level Up, Caliphate, we're going to take very good care of you. You're going to have your food and everything sorted out. You're going to have your food journal and everything sorted out. We're going to stick with you throughout the entire process. Look out for that. You must follow at Caliphate 246 and at Level Up Barbados in order to qualify for that. The details will be listed online. Well, that's hoping that Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp stay up within the coming days. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. Person, you should come down and try one of these burpee challenges, man.
You're right. I should come down, but if time allows, naturally. If time allows.
You see, that's the thing about fitness. You got to make that time.
Good point. So we'll make the time, all things being equal, next week. We'll do that workout. That quick workout with your city is what again?
Well, we were doing core stability this morning, right? So we revisit that next week. I can actually bring the yoga ball. This is gonna make it. It's gonna make it interesting.
Oh, good. So we'll see Thorn on the yoga ball next weekend. Next week, should Spare Life indeed. Don't forget Caliphate 246
and Level Up Barbados.
Yeah, Level Up Barbados as well. Go there. You get a chance to win, and you get a chance to be a part of that big transformative change in your life through your fitness as well. We got to leave it right here now, folks. This is where we say goodbye for today. Thank you, Thorn, and if it be God's will, we'll see you again tomorrow. For the crew, to all of you, good day.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up.